Hello, business builders, and welcome to Business for Breakfast, where business is the most important meal of the day. I'm your host, Aaron Novinger. Really, the goal on this channel is to give you a ton of micro lessons that you can really learn tips and tricks on the way to work to help you mind your own business. Today we're going to be talking about the 4 C's of feedback. The 4 C's of feedback. Here's a hint of today's show. Most people think that 3 of the C's are bad and 1 is great. It's actually the reverse. Let's jump into it. All right. So I want to start with a confession today. All right. Feedback, like I'm assuming for most of you, used to terrify me. Absolutely terrify me. But I think a big part of the reason why it used to terrify me was because I put so much of my identity in that feedback. And I think that so much of that stems from, as a child, having back in the day, they called it a learning disability. Now we actually just call it a learning difference. But I did not learn and process information the way most people did. And when I would get feedback, negative feedback, fix this, do that, it was a personal assault on me. How dare you suggest that I do this, fix this, or whatever. And I felt like just the suggestions on how to improve the business was a personal attack on me. I want you to understand, the truth is simple. Feedback is not the enemy, okay? The truth is, and today, we're really going to shift our mindset from not again to Cha-Ching. And that's really the main thing today is, if today goes according to plan, from this moment forward, you'll be able to disassociate taking feedback personally. Hopefully, fingers crossed. All right. If we really think about feedback, right, I think we have a kind of an understanding that it really is the lifeblood to the business. As a matter of fact, when we talk about the 7 plates of business, meaning that basically there's 7 areas of focus in a business, starting with plate 1, which is the trade, right? That's the thing you do 40 hours a week, that when the business is open, it's the product or service you're selling to the public, right? That's only plate 1. Then there's the accounting plate, HR, sales and marketing, IT, logistics, and customer service. Yeah, it's because people don't understand customer service is a skill. When I say customer service is a skill, what I'm referring to is how you attain feedback, how you treat the feedback, and then what you do with the feedback. That is the skill. Hearing somebody complain, that's just having 2 ears that work. That is not processing the skill of customer service or learning the skill of customer service. And trust me, when you do this, it's a skill to do this right, okay? And you know this, if you're a restaurant owner, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The manager on duty, quite literally, is one of the most important people in the entire restaurant, because when there's going to be a complaint on the food, and there's going to be complaints on the food, it's too hot, it's too cold, it's too soft, it's too hard, the chips are stale, it needs a little bit more spice, whatever it is. It's hot, but it needs to be like burn my mouth hot. You guys know what I'm talking about. This is just what we deal with when we're talking about customers. The good thing about customers is, in a sense, like if you're playing a sport, they're always moving the net, right? They always want more and expect more. As the manager on duty, do not know how to properly receive the feedback and then make the necessary adjustments so that way it doesn't help other customers. Well, if you do it wrong, you're going to run off a customer and 7 to 10 other people that they tell to not go over there. I'm not kidding. It's just like that. And because you had a manager that took feedback personally, it wasn't like the manager made the food, right? It's the manager's job to help bridge the gap between the customer expectations and the experience the customer had. There's a gap there. So your job as a manager is to really do the best you can to meet that gap, right? And But you see so many people out there, and maybe because you had a domineering parent, or you didn't have voice growing up, or you hate conflict, whatever it is, right? But I'm just telling you, this quite literally can be the secret sauce to your entire business. How you receive feedback, the systems that you put in place to get routine feedback, and then more importantly, how you execute and make the necessary changes with the feedback received. You see what I'm saying? So the good news is that you can actually rewrite your brain to not only accept feedback, but listen, this is the most important thing, thrive on it. Thrive on it, okay? And it starts with a very simple reframe. And if you know anything, I talk a lot about micro lessons and reframes, because reframes are just these like little sayings that you tell yourself that, and it shouldn't make any sense that when you say the phrase, but subconsciously it attaches differently, and there's quite literally instantaneous change oftentimes in your physiology because of a simple mental reframe. So reframes are very powerful, right? But the expectation today, my expectation is that by the end of today, you'll be able to kind of walk away with a new perspective on how you receive feedback, okay? Again, this is just a very simple, actionable way for you to remember it. And I'm always doing acronyms, and the funny thing is, a lot of you guys know I'm getting my pilot's license, and everything is a stupid acronym. Let me just give you a tiny example, small little rabbit trail, okay? Your engine stalls, A, B, C, D, E. Airspeed, best landing spot, checklist, declare emergency, execute. You're coming in for landing, grumps, G, gas, right? Your radio, your undercarriage, which is your landing gear, mixture, your prop, if you've got a constant speed prop, your seat belts, your switches. Okay, the 4 C's of feedback, just add it to another one of those that you have to memorize and make it 1,001. If you start applying what you hear today, I guarantee your life, especially if you are the type of person that took feedback personally, okay? Let's talk about and really help define what really the problem is, okay? And it really starts with, why does feedback feel like a punch in the gut? Like it shouldn't have to, but like, why does it? But it's simple. It's because as business owners, as a business owner of a venti business, which is, we know, 1 to 20 employees, that's typically mom and pop. You take your business very personally, and now you get the rub. Because just because you take your business personally, most owners take feedback personally. Now, you are supposed to, as the owner, take your business very personally. I take it very personal how I run my business, right? But this is where you must separate taking feedback personally, okay? This is why I've always said software companies are actually the best at how they receive feedback, because whenever you've got a piece of software that's written, quite literally by the time it's released, already instantly receiving feedback on new versions of the software. So as soon as they come out with 1.0, they've already got some easy way for you as a user to submit feedback instantly to elicit how to make the software better. Think of your business as software, where even though you're in the business and you take it very personal what you do and how you do it, think of receiving the feedback like you're a software company, where this is just feedback from an end user talking about how to use this product a little better for their experience, right? So there's no such thing as an owner of a software company that when they get all the feedback when they have a new update, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm such a piece of crap. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so low. I'm lower than a worm. No, that's, when you hear me saying it, you should start laughing, because it is that funny. Because you know that software companies don't take the feedback like that, which is odd that small business owners do it as well. But I think if the small business owner, specifically the mom and pop or the venti business owner, did it, I think that there would be a kind of a new and fresh awakening. I think you understand, we pour our heart and soul into our business, and then when somebody criticizes it, in a sense, it's like they're criticizing us. Did you catch that? When somebody criticizes our business, it's as though they're criticizing us. And by the way, it's like they're wrong. Okay, let me give you an example. As a parent, Rebecca and I have 2 amazing kids. They're married. We have grandkids. But when you're a parent and you have young kids, your kiddo acts crazy, does something, whatever. Don't you as a parent, if somebody criticizes one of your kids, don't you as a parent almost feel like they're criticizing you? Especially if it's about their behavior or something like that, right? We do the same thing with our business. Because we take the behavior of our kids personal, like it's a reflection on us. So when somebody criticizes one of our kids, our business, it's as though they're criticizing us. You get it, right? You get it. Okay. So let me illustrate this for you so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's say you've got a bakery, okay? And this bakery, and you've got a customer. And by the way, this is also key. When eliciting feedback from customers, I have a rule. And I'm going to 100% listen to everybody purely out of gratitude and a heart of gratitude and kindness for the feedback. That does not mean I'm listening to it, okay? Meaning, it doesn't mean I'm actually going to sit and ponder it, okay? Because I still have, and you hear me talking about all the time about the Fokker circle of trust, okay? So I have my own circle of trust, okay? And who's in there, which means if you're in my circle of trust, I allow you, as long as you come at me with a mindset of peace and love, right? Like you're not aggressive or upset, which causes the other person to typically match that. As long as you're not coming at me like that, I tend to receive it and will process it. But here's the thing. If you're a long-term customer, if you've been with the practice for more than, let's say, a few months, probably 6 months, in that case, I'm really going to listen. I'm going to be very intentional to listen. But here's the kicker. What if that's not the case? What if this is a brand new customer? Am I going to, at the same time, take this person's feedback? I want to be grateful because it could very well be, because new customers, new team members that you hire, they tend to be some of your most valuable feedback because they approach it from a place of fresh eyes, right? Everybody gets used to their own smells. As a business owner, I'm always very appreciative of somebody that comes back and gives feedback as a new user or consumer of our services, because oftentimes, again, they can see things that our other customers can't see, but at the same time going to carry a different weight. So it's not coming with the same level of hit that, let's say, a customer has been with us for 10 years, was complaining about something that's been bugging him for a couple years now. That hit's different, right? And I think we have a pretty good understanding of that, right? So you've got this bakery, and one of your long-term customers says, hey, I feel like the cupcakes are a little too sweet. That feedback is pinnacle in what you do with it. I think you get that, right? Understand when you get the feedback, there's a fork in the road. You have 2 paths that you can go down. And most of us go down the wrong path. But you have 2 options. So the very first option is pay attention. What is your instinct? Do you intuitively, immediately get defensive? Do you instantly defend, deflect, deny the allegation? Obviously you had some mouthwash or something this morning, because nobody has issues with our muffins, okay? Well, that is definitely one way to receive the feedback, which unfortunately is how most people do it. But here's the kicker. There's another way, right? Just as easily, you could come back and say, but what if they're right? That's the question you have to ask yourself every time you get feedback. What if they're right? What if I execute on this feedback, right? What if dialing back the sugar literally unlocks a new entire market of more healthy muffins, right? Because honestly, if you have a bakery, that's not something that's usually out there. You see what I'm saying? What if you cut it back and all of a sudden all your customers love it even more, sales go up, right? Ignoring feedback is not just bad for your business, okay? More often than not, it's a missed opportunity to get more business. Did you hear me? So when you receive that feedback, ignoring the feedback isn't just bad for business. More often than not, it's missed opportunity. That's growth. That's revenue. You see what I'm saying, right? I think hopefully this is making sense to you guys, right? Is the feedback good or bad? The answer is maybe, okay? The feedback absolutely could be good, okay? It could be bad. But here's the thing. Until you actually hear the feedback, listen to it, meet with your core leadership team. What do you think about this? Should we do this? Does this make sense? Is the feedback good or bad? Maybe yes, maybe no. You won't know, but I'll tell you what will make the difference is in how you receive it. I'm going to tell you a Chinese parable. It's about the Chinese farmer. Okay, so long ago there was a widowed Chinese farmer. The farmer and his son labored through the cold winters, scorching days of summer with their last remaining horse. One day, the son didn't lock the gate of the stable properly and the horse bolted away. When the neighbors learned what happened, they came to the farmer and said, "Hey, what sadness this is. Without your horse, you're going to be unable to tend your farm. What a failure that your son did not lock that gate properly. This is a great, great tragedy." The farmer replied, "Maybe yes, maybe no." The next day, the missing horse returned to the farmer's stable, bringing along with it 6 wild horses. The farmer's son locked the gate this time of the stable firmly behind all 7 horses. When the neighbors learned what happened, they came to the farmer and said, "What happiness this brings with now 7 horses. You'll be able to maintain the farm with 3 of them and then sell the rest for huge profits. What a blessing!" The farmer replied, "Maybe yes, maybe no." The next day, the farmer's son was breaking in one of the wild horses. The son got thrown from the horse, fell hard on the rocks, and broke his leg. When the neighbors learned what happened, they came to the farmer and said, "What great sadness this is. Now you'll be unable to count on your son's help. What a failure to break in the horse properly. What a tragedy." Their farmer replied, "Maybe yes, maybe no." The next day, a general from the Imperial Chinese Army arrived to conscript all the young men of the village into the army, which basically means draft. Their assignment was to fight on the front lines of a battle against a terrifying enemy of overwhelming force. The farmer's son, because of his broken leg, was not taken. When the neighbors learned what happened, they came to the farmer and said, "What great joy! Your son avoided facing certain death on the front lines of the battle. What a blessing!" The farmer replied, "What do you think the farmer said?" You guessed it. Maybe yes, maybe no. You never know what the next feedback is going to do for your business. Scott Adams, who's the creator of Dilbert, and I've often said 100 years from now, we'll look back and call him our modern day prophet. But he tells a story that years ago, when he first started the Dilbert comic series, he did something a little unusual. He invited his readers to email feedback, and he discovered that every critique was a potential improvement or upgrade to the comic. Honestly, studies back this. Businesses that actively seek feedback outperform their competitors. It's just a known thing. And if we want to look at even scripture, what is it? Proverbs 12:15 reminds us, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man that listens. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice, right? Wisdom starts with listening, right? And again, I'm not saying listen to everybody, but have a circle of trust, people that you trust their feedback, right? And what can we do? Let's talk about a simple reframe, very easy solution, if you will. And again, a reframe is just a statement that you say to yourself subconsciously, like internally or out loud, that instantly changes your behavior. And so instead of seeing feedback as a threat, see it as a cash register. There's like those old-timey cash registers where there's like a Cha-Ching, right? So every time you receive feedback, I want you to imagine a cash register when you hit the button, bing, Cha-Ching. That sound makes it you're making a deposit into your personal and professional bank account. And I remember this saying years ago, the coach only rides the players they see the most potential in. Nobody's going to give feedback unless they think you're actually going to do something with it, okay? So think of, like for illustrative purposes, right? Think of your business like a ship. Feedback is your compass. It's quite literally pointing out the course corrections before you hit the iceberg. You get this? The purpose of feedback is that of the compass of the ship, designed to point you to safety, to keep you on course. Without it, you are sailing blind. And remember, even a slight course correction can lead to a drastically different outcome. You guys know I'm getting my pilot's license, and one of the things that I'm working on now is what we call cross-country flights. And when you do your cross-country flights, the most important thing is your heading. And then you've got to adjust your heading for the wind, but your first heading, that heading determines whether or not you're going to be on track the entire flight. And last week when I was in my lesson, we were flying to an airport about 75 miles away with me and my instructor. And we got back and he pulled up on the, I think it's Flight Radar 24 app, where you can put in a tail number and you can track the flight. And then on the way to our destination, you swung wide and we had to course correct to come back in. And then on the way back, you were swinging wide the other way and we had to course correct to get back on. You want to know why we were swinging wide? I didn't have the right heading. I was like 2 or 3 degrees off. But for every degree off, once you get to about 60 miles, that's like a mile off. If I'm 3 degrees off and I'm 75 miles away, that means I'm like 5 miles away from my airport destination. 5 miles. Little tiny adjustments. And that is the feedback, okay? Let's talk about the 4 C's of feedback and how we can turn what we're learning today into something that we can remember easy, because that's the thing with me is I do acronyms because I have to remember it has to be easy. Okay, so understand, let's break down the 4 C's of feedback. Number 1, comments, okay? And we know that comments are what they are, just suggestions to consider. Nobody's really complaining about something, but let me give you an example. There's a coffee shop over by our Texas office that I frequent a lot. And I'm a guy that loves to have cinnamon raisin bagels or strawberry schmear, things like that. And so I'll make the suggestion, but that's just a comment. I'm not complaining about something. I'm just suggesting something. It's a comment, okay? Now, let's talk about the second C of the 4 C's. Criticism. That is constructive advice to refine the product or service. It's constructive advice, right? I have a criticism about this. How we're doing this could be done a little differently, right? It's constructive advice. The third C, complaints, okay? Think these are just opportunities to solve problems, guys. A complaint is an opportunity to solve problems. And the fourth C of the 4 C's of feedback is compliments, which we understand is just affirmation of what we're already doing. Now you understand the 4 C's of feedback. Most people think 3 are bad and 1 is good. But I just read you the definitions. Now in your mind, you should be thinking 3 are great, 1 is okay. Do I really need to hear affirmations of what I'm already doing that's working for a compliment? Nope. I need to hear the comments, the criticisms, and the complaints. But just the kicker is treat all of the feedback as valuable, okay? Positive and negative. Maybe yes, maybe no, right? But the first step when you hear feedback today, stop. Because intuitively you're going to want to get triggered. This is so important. If you get triggered right when you get feedback and you can feel yourself wanting to shut the person down or whatever and you go into autopilot mode, that really should be a telltale sign that you're suffering from cognitive dissonance, meaning you don't even realize when you're doing it, okay? But today, when you hear feedback, I want you to stop before you feel anything, before you react, before you open your mouth, and I want you to imagine a cash register and to hear hit the button, Cha-Ching, and remind yourself that feedback equals profit. Feedback equals profit. Feedback equals profit, okay? All right. Let's think about that last piece of feedback that we received. And this is just for you to, when you're thinking about the day, and by the way, typically it's people that feel comfortable that are in your circle to give you the feedback. Think about it. The last time you received feedback, and like at work, at your business, or even in your relationship, okay? Just think about the last time you received feedback and how did you respond, okay? Now, for the business, did you get feedback on a new product, a new service? What was your reaction? And I want you to just to reflect on it for a minute or two. This is where you have to be honest with yourself. If you get triggered, if you get offended, if you take feedback personally, okay? I remember a time a customer told me that our business hours sign looked like it was made by a kindergartner. And at first you're like, you don't understand. The lock broke, we had to get something up, so it was better to have that up than nothing. That's what you want to say. I wanted to defend it. It's quirky. We did that on purpose. Anybody can just print something. We want it to look like it meant something. But honestly, they were right. A professional sign does make a difference. Hello, knock, hello, da. Professional signs tend to look a little bit more professional than signs handwritten by a kindergartner. I don't know. Makes sense, right? Sometimes that feedback stings because it's true. But here's the thing. Once you realize the customer had the courage to say something to you, get it. They could have taken their business somewhere else. But they brought it up directly to you, hoping that you would be able to make the necessary adjustments for this customer to continue doing business with you. For every one customer complaining, I want you thinking to yourself, I probably have 25 other customers thinking the same thing. If I fix this issue for this customer, I'm probably fixing it for 25 other customers. Think of it like that, okay? I want you to take a minute and reflect a little bit. Ask yourself, what feedback have you been avoiding? Okay? What could you learn if you leaned into the feedback rather than running away from the feedback? Take a moment, jot it down, just one piece of feedback that you'll embrace this week. Just focus on one thing that you can change that you've been hearing, okay? And if you're the coffee shop and you've been hearing about that one customer that wants the cinnamon raisin bagel with strawberry schmear, just if you're a listening business owner, I'm sick and tired of giving it to Einstein Bagels. Okay, so if you could just help me out, I want to give you the money. Local coffee shop owner in our hometown, Winkedy, okay? All right. A couple real life examples, and I'm going to wrap this up. When Starbucks launched their new coffee, they received complaints, and this is years ago, and I think it was for Pike's Place, that it was too bitter. And so what did they do? They created milder roasts, right? And they introduced sugary drinks like caramel macchiato or Zoolander orange frappuccino. What was the result of that feedback? Oh, I don't know. How about billions in revenue? Like billions in revenue, okay? So, applying the 4 C's of feedback. When you hear a comment, ask yourself, how can I build this? How can I build on this comment? When you are faced with criticism, ask, what truth is here? What is true about this, right? For complaints, ask yourself, how can I fix this? With compliments, ask yourself, how can I keep doing more of this, right? Ignoring feedback doesn't just cost you money. It costs you customers. It costs you relationships. It costs you credibility. But embracing it, that's how you grow. It's the only way to grow is by feedback, right? Feedback, make the adjustments, right? That's how we grow. So imagine your business a year from now, streamlined, thriving. You have a process in place to receive constant and continual customer. That is the power of the 4 C's and hearing the Cha-Ching, okay? Let me just summarize this, and I want to get you guys gone, right? Remember today, feedback is not the enemy. It's the opportunity. Let me say that again. Feedback is not the enemy. It's the opportunity. It's the Cha-Ching. It's profit. Feedback equals profit. The 4 C's of feedback: comments, criticism, complaints, compliments. They are your roadmap to success. Mark my words, right? Now here's the kicker. You got what it takes, okay? Get out there, start listening to your customers, okay? And take every Cha-Ching, every feedback, and turn it into a Cha-Ching. Turn it into that opportunity. I want you to remember, guys, what we do is important. What you do matters. So get out there, be encouraged, okay? And more than anything, I want you tearing it up, killing it. I want you to have an amazing day. Why? Because you're amazing, okay? So what time is it, gang? Woo! It's time to get to work.